Hello, everyone, and welcome to our November updates webinar. This is actually going to be our last one for the year, so it's a bit of a special one. So thank you all for joining today and for your participation through the year so far. Before we get into things, as usual, just a few housekeeping notes. If you do have, as we mentioned in that little presentation before, if you've got any questions, please drop them into the Q&A box. As outlined in that video. We will try and get to them, as many of them, during the Q&A session as possible. We will follow up by email if we don't get to them. If you've been to our sessions previously, we know that we do a few polls along the way. We've got a couple of polls today, so we'd love you to take part in those. Gives us some insights around how your business runs, but also kind of helps you, I think, see a little bit about how other people do their business as well. Of course, if you miss any part of the presentation, don't worry. This is being recorded, and just keep an eye open in your inbox, where we will send a link to the video. We do also store them on our YouTube page as well. So if you go look on YouTube for Super Concepts and SuperMate, you'll find them over there. We're going to keep this slide in for a little while. We're going to milk our achievements as much as possible. So just we have been recognized as the SMSF Technology Innovator of the Year by the SMSF at the SMSF Advisor SMSF Awards 25. Jeez, that's quite a mouthful. Very, very exciting for us. We've got a great product here, and we're continuing to develop it, and it's really, really great to get that recognition in the market. Today, it's just myself and Reese. My name is Eugene. I'm the Business Development Manager at SuperMate, and Reese is our Product Design Manager, a face that you're all very, very familiar with in these webinars. Today, we just, by way of agenda, we've got quite a packed agenda today. Lots of new things happening in SuperMate. Just a brief overview, we're going to be looking at some new letters, some additions to workflows, some changes to the client view, withholding tax types, actuarial certificate data changes, and prior year document checks. Reese is going to be taking us through all of those, so that's very exciting. And I think probably now is a good time to hand over to Reese, who's going to take us through all of the enhancements. Over to you, mate.
Thanks, Eugene. Share my screen. Yeah, I'll be going through the latest releases. As Eugene's pointed out, we have the letters, so there's some new tokens we brought out, a new way to generate letters as PDF during automation processes, workflows, different ways of reassigning steps and interaction with queries. A lot of these changes have to do with just making things quicker and easier to use. So client view, we updated the registration email just so it can be catered a bit more to match brands, and once again some more query changes. Withholding tax, we've got a lot of feedback about adding additional withholding tax processing types in SuperMate, so we've enhanced it. I'll take you through those changes. The actuarial certificate, we have some changes relating to deemed segregation periods, and the information that we send off to the actuarial certificate providers, and prior year checks. So we've got some checks that have come out where you can use them to look at documents that relate to the prior year that impact the current year. Okay, so the first letter token that I'm going to take us through is the beneficiary details token. Screen should be familiar. This is where you can put in all the beneficiary details, where it's got name, the birth date of the beneficiary, the relationship, the percentage, and you also have additional details section. So we've updated the tokens to specify more about percentages and additional details. So if I move into the next slide, you can see this is one where I've run for Jeff to sign, just a death benefit nomination minute. The new tokens that we've adjusted, or that they're existing tokens that we've adjusted, is the allocation percentage one and the additional details one. So the allocation percentage will always have a figure now, and the additional details, if you put that into the screen, will appear there. I'll navigate to SuperMate just quickly, just a refresher for the people who are not fully aware where beneficiaries are in new SuperMate. So if I go to Jeff and go to the beneficiary screen, this is where it's maintained. If I select edit, a bit of feature that we do in SuperMate is that you can add a document to a beneficiary. So with beneficiary record, so if you have that beneficiary minute, you can obviously, or beneficiary minute, beneficiary document request, you can obviously index them to the document screen, but you can also link it here. So if you are dealing with a member who has passed away, or in a meeting and you're discussing beneficiary circumstances and estate planning, and you wanted to quickly check what's on file, the documents section down here will be available to grab those documents. But yeah, so for members or beneficiaries, you can, if they're existing members, the date of birth, GFN, postal address always comes through. You can choose the relationship type, percentage, and additional details. And where I've seen additional details used, I've had a case recently where they didn't actually want to use percentages, so they wanted to say 100,000 goes to this person, 200,000 goes to this person, and then the rest goes to a third member. Now, if what you could do is just leave the percentages blank. So if they go to 0 and then the additional details are entered, I might actually do it for this one. So I could go. And select save. It comes up as blank, 200 paid as a lump sum, the remainder of the balance. Then when you run this letter here, the additional details will appear in this section here, and then the percentage, you can set it up so if it's 0, it can return a dash or something like that. And it's enabled the customization of the binding nominations, but also, yeah, provides more information, makes the beneficiary details easier to record and produce in a minute. The next tokens that we have added are the contributions made tokens. So we've had this letter here where, well, these letter tokens here where it's a table token, you can include the member's name. Then we've always had the bottom two where it's concessional contributions allowed, non-concessional contributions allowed, which if you use those tokens, return what the contribution cap is. The ones that we've introduced are the concessional contributions made, that's the total, employer, member, non-concessional total, and then other made. This other made figure will be any contributions that don't go towards the concessional or non-concessional cap. So I believe an example is non-concessional contributions made. This is only what goes towards the non-concessional cap. I believe downsize the contribution is considered non-concessional, but since it doesn't apply to the non-concessional cap, it does not go towards the non-concessional contribution figure. And you can see here I've used this in a minute where I want to confirm with the trustees how much contributions they made during the year. And you can see Jack's got 110 non-concessional, Kylie's got 30,000, Jeff's got 10,000 member concessional, and 100,000 others. So that could be that downsizer I'm talking about. The other could be LISC contributions. So that's one use of this new tokens. The other use could be, say, you can have an automated letter or a query template set up where you have, okay, this is the concessional contributions total. So using this token, this is the employer, this is the member, and then this is the concessional contributions. And you could create a couple of tables where you're sending a letter to a client saying, or a query to a client saying, this is the amount of contributions we've got recorded so far, and this is your cap, and outline any gaps that they have where they can make additional contributions. Now, obviously, if they have client view, they do get a screen where they can log in themselves and they can see those contribution caps where they can see the minimums and the caps, or dive into the contribution screen and get more details on that data. But yeah, letter tokens, sending letters, people still do it. So we've enhanced those tokens for people. Okay. The next enhancement that we've brought out relates to automatically generating letters or letter templates as a PDF. There's a couple of circumstances where we have increased this enhancement. The first one is we've got a new system default to control whether auto-generated letters do get created as PDFs. So those kind of circumstances will be like when you commence a pension, you can set up an event where it will create the letter automatically every time you create a pension, contributions, some of the end of year period close jobs. When they do run, that will automatically create letters as PDFs. The other one that we've done it for is workflow steps. So obviously we've put a lot of automation into our workflows. One of those pieces of automation is being able to generate letters or report suites automatically for users, so you don't have to go off to a screen and generate those letters manually. Bit of feedback we got was that, hey, I've got this workflow, it's creating this letter, it's coming in as Word, and I want to, then I have to download it, convert it to PDF, and then upload it back into the system. Where now, after the release that happened about a week ago, you'll be able to now set up a workflow where these letters get generated automatically as a PDF, and then the flow and effect is that you can save it down, that PDF down, and then attach it to a query. So there's a lot of friction that we're taking out of the process. Quickly navigate back to SuperMate. Just that's the client view one. Settings, system defaults. So that system default was the event letter format. I've got mine set to no, so during the automated processes, I'm still getting them as Word, but I can change that to, I select edit, I can change that to yes, and then I start getting those letters as PDFs, which is quite helpful. The other one, I'll just double check I have the right fund, yep, is in the workflows section. I've got a commence pension workflow happening now. I don't have a letter being set up as automatic event. I'm relying on the workflows to set up to generate these letters when I commence a pension. If I select the screen on the step to commence the pension, I'll get taken to the screen. I can see that I've already commenced a pension on the 30th of June, so someone mustn't have ticked off this step. But when I select complete, SuperMate's going to automatically generate this letter for me. And this time, it's actually going to generate it as a PDF. Right, that was pretty quick. Go to my job screen, view the attachments, and you can see here it's generated as a PDF. So it's automatic. It's ready for me to either download, save it to the fund, and then when it's saved to the fund or it's downloaded, I can raise a query and send it off, making the whole process a lot quicker. Right. Back to the slides. The next section I was going to cover off was workflows. So we've made, I mentioned before, we've made a few workflows just make the system a lot easier to use. The first one, we got some feedback to say that sometimes so obviously you could start a new workflow. You can see on the screen here, when indexing a document, you could start a new workflow, and then that document is attached to that workflow. We've received some feedback from people saying, hey, I've got this workflow happening. Sometimes I forget to trigger the workflow while indexing, and then I miss that opportunity to have that document attached to the workflow. The other scenario where this enhancement is helpful is if you have a workflow where the document gets provided partway through the workflow. I'm thinking either, say, a workflow where you have queries that are raised and those queries get answered, so then you can attach these documents to that to the workflow, and then the workflow moves on to the next step where the fund accountant picks up the workflow and the documents are attached to that workflow, so they don't have to go searching for it. Or say, for example, if you had a property processing workflow where you had certain steps where you request all the information, then when you get all the settlement statements and all those different documents back, you can attach it to the workflow using this process. I'll navigate to SuperMate just so I'm not showing you a slide and show you how to perform this task. I'm going to change the fund to future. Go to the document screen. Go to the document queue. I've got an ANZ redacted statement. If I select edit, I get to the document indexing screen where I can see that ANZ account. Down here it says this is where I start a new workflow. So say if I just got an ANZ bank account in, I could start a new workflow, start a process bank account workflow, something like that. Or I can quickly check here and go, okay, well, this was relating to the end of year one. So I'll link this document to that workflow. And then say if that workflow is relating to, hey, I'm doing the monthly reconciliation, or I'm doing the end of year, and I need this bank statement. I've now linked it when I do, when the person who's got the task on the workflow, they can open it up and go, okay, yeah, here's the document. It's easy to find. So if I go to, might not have linked it because I didn't save. Oh no, it did. I was worried that since I didn't save the index, it wasn't linked, but it does. It links it automatically straight away, and then I can just go view document, and I can see the document that's linked to that workflow. As I mentioned, this did come from feedback from users finding find something frustrating. So if you do have any feedback, send it through. We do take that feedback on board, make enhancements. The next one is reassigning the workflow owner and tasks. And so what we've done with this screen here is that previously it was just, okay, I want to change the task owner for this user or this team. And when you allocate the task to a team, it just goes back to a queue. But with the user, that was just a list of users. Now we have in the drop down, before they start typing a name, you can select the drop down and see if there's any user-based relationships attached to the fund and reallocate that workflow. Where this feedback came from was that we've had users where this was a larger firm which had multiple CSMs, multiple fund accountants, multiple quality consultants, end-of-year accountants is another user-based relationship. And when they were completing their steps or they had a step and they were, hang on, it's not, I'm a CSM, it's not up for me to make this change. It's up to the fund accountant to do this step. They were going to change the task owner, but then they're like, hang on, who's the fund accountant? They'd have to close the dialog down, look at the relationships tab, see who the fund accountant was, then go back and reassign it to that person. Whereas now, when they go to change that task owner, they can just click the drop down. They can see who those relationships are. So as you're probably already across, those relationships are maintained in the fund details relationships section, customer service manager, fund accountant, quality consultant. And when I go to the workflows, I can look at this one. These two tasks that are allocated to me. This workflow owner, I'm the owner of the workflow. If I want to change myself as a workflow owner, I can just select the ellipse and change the workflow owner to someone else. Or in the task section, I can see there's a bunch of end of year. I'm the fund accountant. I'm not the CSM. Some of these tasks can be completed by someone else. And I can just go select change task owner and then say I want James to do it because he's the quality consultant. I can select save. We also have that bulk changing functionality where I can tick multiple, change task owner, James, select save. And now those tasks are sitting in James's court to complete. I should point out with this bulk change task owner or the change workflow owner, if you have multiple funds selected, the relationship-based drop-down does not provide the information because there could be different relationships on different funds. So, for example, this future one has James as a quality consultant, but if I if I selected another one, so the Pollock Super Fund where James wasn't the quality consultant, I couldn't use that relationship-based drop-down because I have two different users that have the same role on two different funds, so it wouldn't work. So the bulk drop-down tick box, it only works when it's when a single fund is selected. All right. Another change that we've done is we've enabled the annual return answers to be generated during a trial close. So previously, before this change, when you did a trial close as part of a workflow, so as you're probably aware, workflows can run trial closes for people automatically. We never generated the annual return answers when it was a trial close. When it was a final close, we did, but not when it was a trial close. now we've given the option of whether you want to generate the report answers or not. And that can differ based on what type of workflow it is. So if it's a screenshot is from my workflow where I commence the pension and I want to run a trial close on the date that I'm commencing the pension just to update the earnings, I don't want the annual return answers generated then because I'm not doing the end of year. Whereas if I was doing end of year workflow, I probably want to generate the annual return answers during a trial close, see what the answers become. The next item, client view. So the third dot point on the first screen, we've added a system default to use the brand name in the registration email. Right, this is the registration email that gets sent to trustees, and there's a couple of instances where the administrator's name or the site's name is used in this email, and that is where it says SuperMate Accounting here, or and down here it says SuperMate Accounting, and then on the sign off it says SuperMate Accounting Team. And we've got a bit of feedback where some sites might have the unofficial business name, or it might be an older site where the business name has changed, or when setting up the SuperMate site, the site name was a name that might not be configured to directly correlate with your business. So we've put a system default in that will use the brand name in this email rather than the site name or the administrator's name. So going back to SuperMate, the system default is client-view-use. So it's the client view use brand name. Mine's set to yes, hence why in the screenshot it was using the brand name, and the brand name for each fund can be found here. So this one, that's where the SuperMate accounting came from. It also helps if you're white labeling and you have multiple brands. It can the trustees will get an email and it kind of looks like that email came from the company you're white labeling for. Also allows you to have multiple brands, and you could say this for this brand, this is the name that shows up into the invite. So a lot more customization enabled. The next item that I'm covering off is the client view and the ability to link a document to an existing query. So in the previous slides, I was going through talking about enhancement where I was indexing a document to an existing workflow. This one is to link a document to an existing query. So I shall jump back to SuperMate so I can show you more what I mean. Yeah, this one's the correct fund. So in the document queue, I've got the ANZ bank account. It's now linked to that workflow. I can enter in bank statement. ANZ bank account, and then it's notified me that there is open query, so I can quickly look and go, hang on, this one is about requesting ANZ bank account. I can select match to query. And then save it next. And then when I navigate back to the query section, I can see that the statement that I just indexed is now on the query. And then I can just mark that as completed. And the benefit of doing that is that when I index that document and attach it to the query, it didn't send a notification to the client that there was a message added to a query or another query raised. So the clients aren't aware of, well, that they don't get a message to say that there's something to action or something to look at, or they don't get notified by it. But it's a way that if you were an accountant or a CSM, and for some reason the client didn't respond to the query through client view and emailed you the document as a CSM, you can actually just attach it to the query forum and then close it. And if there's a workflow where it says, hey, queries to be answered, the accountant can come back here, view the query, see that okay, well, this query is closed. Why is it closed? View it. All right, there's the document. And so that there's not a query there that got closed for no reason. So or looks like it got closed for no reason. So it's just a handy way of just closing out queries, and making sure that the relevant information is there when you do close that query. The next item relates to the end of year screen for portfolios. So on the screen, I do have a super fund. I'm looking at client view, and the end of year section. That's where where they can go and look at prior years, see the different documents, the financials, assigned financials, the audit reports, see the flow of the workflow and the preparation, the different steps, and the status and the tax refund. When it's a portfolio, we take that screen out because there's no real benefit of showing that screen. So in SuperMate, jump back to this screen and launch client view. So for future 25, might navigate to this one because it's got a better view. It's a super fun. I've got the menu item. I've got the screen. I can see the different details. Download the financials for the 25 financial year that's not signed yet. Review it. But if I have any portfolio clients, if they were to log in, we don't have that end of year screen because, as I said before, it doesn't really relate to end of year. The last item relating to client view is the updated queries tab. We've received a bit of feedback where prior to this change, we had a in progress and history tab. I had the two tabs. We've got feedback from trustees and advisors saying it was a bit confusing because when a query got raised, it went into the history section, or if they responded to a query, it went back into a history section before it got processed. So it's split into three tabs. This view here is what you'd see if you're on the mobile, and we've labeled the three tabs: to do, with us, done. To do means if I'm logged in, that is for me to do, so the trustees would do it. if it says with us, that means that is with, as an account, that is with us, as in the trustees don't need to action it. And then you have a done tab. And we also have the numbers on top. So say if this query got answered, it'll move from the to do tab to the with us tab. So jumping back to this fund, I might actually use this fund as an example. It's got more queries. If they were to jump in, they would see that 3 to do. They'd be able to view those with us. Obviously, with the accountant, I've got no. Says 0. I've got nothing. So this should make it more clear, more obvious where the status of those queries are at and which ones need to be actioned and which ones don't need to be actioned. Withholding tax types. Before the release, there was we had the TFN withholding tax types in the distribution screen. You can enter it in. Then when doing the end of year, going to annual tax statement screen, that's when you could split it up between the different withholding types. We've made the adjustment now based on feedback where people want to be able to say, no, it was this withholding tax type while processing the distribution statement, which I think makes sense. We've added it to 2 screens. So the 2 screens that we've added, this new drop down is if the distribution was generated by a corporate action. If I select edit, this is where the TFN withholding is. I can change whether it's ABN withholding, non-residential, other withholding, put the amount in. Or when there is a distribution that is being processed annually, which I did on a different fund. Obviously, different experience because it's not generated by corporate action. I could change withholding type. It says ABN withholding. I could change it to TFN withholding, put the amount in, select save. So we've enabled in SuperMate just to be able to change those withholding types while processing the distribution. And then when you navigate to the annual tax statement screen and select update on the record, the withholding tax is automatically in there. And so if you have multiple distributions with multiple different withholding tax types, they do get summed up into this section here. And when processing the tax statement, you don't have to go through and say, okay, there's 60 to TFN withholding, there's 30 to ABN. It's all taken care of on a distribution level. Actuarial certificate changes. We now exclude the deemed segregation period when the ECPI calculation method is equal to deemed segregation period. If any other ECPI method is selected, if any other ECPI method is selected, we exclude the deemed segregation periods from the actuarial certificate payload that we send to the actuarial certificate providers. If the ECPI calculation method is deemed segregation period, then we send the segregation period. And why we've added this in is just that when you do an end of year close and then are provided the actuarial certificate screen, SuperMate does say, okay, well, these eCPI calculation methods can be used, but you do have that option to override the eCPI calculation method. So you can see here, SuperMate said, okay, let's use the deemed segregation period for the first half of the year. I'll override it, select edit, and then go unsegregated method, select save. So as a user, I don't have to clear the deemed segregation period. When I go down to the new request, select the actual certificate provider, select submit. Since we're not using the deemed segregation period method, we're not going to send the deemed segregation periods. Now, rest assured, prior to this release, where we were sending the deemed segregation periods, it doesn't impact any actuarial certificates that you've already sent in the past where you've done this change. It's just a bit of feedback that we got from the actuarial certificate providers where they were saying, hey, I'm getting deemed segregation periods, but they're not using that method. Why am I getting this? And so we've enhanced our software just to help the actuarial certificate providers with the data that we're sending across. And the last enhancement that I'm going to talk about today is the prior year document check. So obviously we have the fund health check. We have tests that we can run, and we've had a request where someone's sending off documents to the auditor. The auditor's come back and said, hey, I don't have last year's signed financials, or if they weren't the audit for the prior year, they didn't have the audit report. They also didn't have the audit management letter. So we've put these checks in to go, hey, do these documents exist for the prior year? And if they don't, you can get a warning. Now, in the I'll just navigate to health check screen and go to the global screen. We haven't added any of these checks to any of the profiles that existed. But if you do want to add it to any of the profiles, you can just go to the health check screen, navigate to this all funds, all site level, and navigate to the profile settings. This is where we maintain what tests sit in which profile. You can also add your own profile. You can see here I've created a specific one for prior year documents where I've selected to include all these prior year documents. If I did want to add it to the end of year one, I'd track down the end of year profile and type in prior year. So I've got my prior year documents. I can tick them to add them, select save. That'll add them to the end of year profile if that's what I want to do. And then, so that if you add it to end of year one, it'll run when you do end of year close, and you can get those warnings, or you can set up the profile, which I've done, and just navigate to the fund. I can dive in. I can just run the profile on a fund, and then I can see the results. So that running one profile runs all 4 tests at once. I've got a warning here where I've run it for the 26th financial year. So that's an effective date in the 26th financial year. So it's checking to see if those documents exist for the 25 financial year. They don't. So this fund probably, I've sent the unsigned financials off but I haven't got them signed or I don't have the audit report yet. I can view those results. I can also acknowledge results. So say if for some reason I want to acknowledge a test, I can just acknowledge it. Say, okay, yeah, I know it doesn't exist. Maybe I know that I didn't receive a management letter. Acknowledging is probably more a better task where it's got to do with other tests where they're fairly generic, like, this bank account went negative during the year. Okay, I'll have a look. Yeah, I'll acknowledge that it went negative during the year, but I'll fix it. Well, yeah, so that's the prior year document checks that we've added. As I mentioned before, just to assist with the when you have closed off a financial year and you're about to send it off to audit, or you're doing a later review to see what documents you have on the system, you can add these tests, and then if they're missing, look at why. Maybe even these could be used for, hang on, I don't have the signed financials for last year. Did I get them back? And is the annual return lodged for the prior year? Okay. So I've covered off my 6 items: the new tokens, the enhanced workflows, enhanced client view to see more data, and ways to interact with queries, the withholding tax, the deemed segregation periods that we don't include unless the method is deemed segregation period, and the prior year document checks. I'll throw it back to you, Eugene.
Thank you very much, Reese. Well done to you and your team. Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you. Well, yes, I should thank you. I think there we go. All right, back on screen. Just as a reminder, we do have our help portal. So it's a really, really fantastic resource for finding any questions that you might have about how SuperMate works or some of these functions that you might have seen today. You can find it by just clicking on the little question mark icon at the top right of your screen, and that'll bring up this menu. You just click on Help Portal over there, and that'll take you to that help, to the help that you need. If you're not using SuperMate, or if you're on SuperMate desktop and you're looking to see all these features, and and many of them are only available on SuperMate Web, obviously, we have a great SuperMate pricing. I've actually just noticed that some of our competitors have just put up their pricing again this week, and SuperMate is by far the most price efficient out there. So for $132 per year, excluding GST, you get all of these amazing features. Really, really great platform to be using. Of course, as part of the SuperMate family, so of the Super Concepts family, you get access to our on-demand learning, which will give you CPD points and accreditation. And this is provided by Craig Stone, who's who's been a previous participant on these websites, these webinars, and who you should know pretty well. So that's pretty much it from us for this webinar. I don't think there's been any questions in the Q&A, but if you do have any questions at this stage, drop them into the Q&A, and we'll give that just a minute or so for those to come. While I'm doing that, while you're putting any questions in, just on behalf of SuperMate and Super Concepts, we want to wish you, as this is the last webinar that we're running for this year, we just really want to wish you all the very best for the remaining months and for the festive season. We look forward to seeing you in the new year and again at these webinars. And again, just thank you so much for joining these webinars and your participation in them. It really is great that we can develop this little bit of a community, that can benefit from these interactions. So thank you for that. So I don't think there's been anything in the Q&A.
I've got a question that popped through, mate.
Oh, cool.
A few questions, actually. Yeah. So the first one, someone's asked, how do I request new letter tokens? So it's 2 ways. It's obviously one way is to email support and sending your feedback through support. The other option is in SuperMate. There's an option in the top right where you can send feedback. It just use that to send a suggestion, a bit of feedback through. That comes straight to me, and then I can address it. There's another question about attaching multiple documents to a workflow. At this point, there's a single document attached to a workflow, but there is an enhancement that is going through the development team this week. That will allow multiple documents to be attached to a workflow. So that should be out in December sometime.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks, Reese, for that update. Have a good rest of your week and see you in the new year.
Thanks, Eugene.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.